Welcome to Season 5 of On the Mic with Dr. Ace, the Global Mentor Coach, and you're listening to Business Basics. This podcast is dedicated to helping you grow your business. Up to this point, you've been learning from my podcasting mistakes, and I really hope you've been able to take away way more than that. I've been sharing some business basics to help you grow and sustain your business by learning from other companies and situations. This season, I'm kicking it up and digging in deep. I saw an article on LinkedIn and it totally caught my eye. The title, Women Lost $800 billion in income last year. That's more than the combined GDP of 98 countries. I could not wait to dig into it because this is disheartening. Why? Because we've talked so much and seen so much in the news about women's equality, equity for women, and all of these different things. And here comes COVID-19, and it's like we just got setback. So let me share with you the article. You can go to CNN.com business. I'll put the link to the article in the description. But listen, the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic has been disastrous for women, period, point blank. Millions of women worldwide have been disproportionately affected by job losses, with many more left to bear the brunt of massive disruptions to childcare and education. We can just put a pin right there. Think about that. Think about that. Come on. Globally, women lost at least $800 billion in income last year, according to a new report from Oxfam International. That's more than the combined gross domestic products of 98 countries, the $700 billion market capitalization Amazon topped last year, and the nearly $721.5 billion that the U.S. government spent in 2020 on the world's largest defense budget. Just let that sink in for you for a minute. Economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic is having a harsher impact on women who are disproportionately represented in sectors offering low wages, few benefits, and the least secure jobs, said Gabriella Boucher, executive director of Oxfam International. Instead of righting that wrong, governments treated women's jobs as dispensable. And that has come at a cost of at least $800 billion in lost wages for those in formal, listen to this, formal employment. So if this is formal employment, what is it doing for those people who are getting paid cash, who are getting paid under the table? And let's not act like it doesn't happen. You're business owners. You know it happens. I know people who are doing this. They come into the store office and it's like, listen, don't do this because it's going to hurt you in the long run. Put them on an I-9, but don't just pay people cash under the table. Don't do that because that's just bad business. But if this is happening in formal employment where they can track it, how much more is it happening to those least secure jobs, low wage jobs that aren't formal? The organization cites the total income loss as a conservative estimate that doesn't account for wages lost by the millions of women working in the informal economy, which they describe as domestic workers, market vendors, and garment workers. That's just insane. On a global scale, women account for more than 64 million jobs lost last year. That's 5% of all jobs held by women compared to a 3.9% loss for men. The economic blowback of those losses has been even more catastrophic. We were facing a crisis of inequality before 2020, and that's now exploded. That's as a result of a lack of attention to gender-sensitive policymaking and leaving women on their own to cope with this crisis and to absorb the systemic failures that have led us to this point, said Mara Bolis. She's the Associate Director of Women's Economic Empowerment at Oxfam America. The drastic impact of the pandemic on women could have long-lasting consequences, and like I said, this just set us back. It is what it is. It set us back. Even before the pandemic, women suffered from massive inequalities and inequities in wages and work. Women worldwide only earn 77 cents per every dollar that men make, and that's according to the United Nations. The onslaught of the coronavirus crisis has only exacerbated gender inequalities and could make the gender pay gap even worse. And I agree with Bolis when she says it took a crisis to make the invisible visible. You can't not look away. You can't not see it. In the words of Alyssa Milano, don't look away from it. At this point, you can't, because everywhere you turn, it's there. It's in front of you. We have to face it and we have to deal with it. How? That's a good question. With the economic recovery underway, much of it has hinged on effective vaccine rollouts and the administration of more vaccine doses. So far, at least 188 countries and territories have administered more than 1 billion doses of the vaccine. But other measurable efforts have also been underway in the U.S. Recently, the Biden administration pumped $39 billion in relief funds to states to help child care providers stay in business or to reopen, which it says is the single largest investment in child care in U.S. history. And that is just mind-blowing to me. It's just mind-blowing. That has now been followed by a proposed $1.8 trillion plan known as the American Families Plan to help the nation's economy recover from the coronavirus pandemic. A fair and sustainable economic recovery is one that supports women's employment and unpaid care work through strong social safety nets and vibrant care infrastructures, Bouchier said. Recovery from COVID-19 is impossible without women recovering. Now listen. Here is the thing, okay? We can sit here and talk about women's equality, talk about equity, but it's enough talking and it's time to do something. What can we take away from this article other than what's obviously there? First of all, if you're a man, invest in women. If you're in venture capital, invest in women-owned businesses. If you're a woman-owned business, invest in other women. Next, find ways to address the needs of women in your community. Obviously, childcare and education are an issue. What can you do? I'm reminded of that 1980s movie 9 to 5 with Dolly Parton and Jane Fonda, and the man who was leading the business wouldn't listen to any of the ideas that Violet came up with, and none of that. He just kept dismissing it like, no. Like, you got a workforce that's predominantly women, but you're not doing anything to accommodate their needs. They hook up this plan to get rid of him. So they get rid of him, tie him up in his own house, gets rid of his wife, sends her on to this, this little excursion of her own. And then his, little sidekick person there's always one in the office that's always telling him everything, and they have to be a woman. They got rid of her as well. Found a way to get her out of the way for at least a couple of weeks while they implemented their plan. And they put all of these different things into place to help women in the workforce to increase productivity. They opened up a daycare center on site. They implemented flex work schedules. They did all of these things, and productivity boosted. So by the time he came back, Mr. Hart came back to the office and the Big Cheese came for his visit. He was so impressed, the Big Cheese, by the way, with all of the increase in productivity and his quote-unquote innovative ideas. They wanted to ship him off to the next plant in South America, somewhere that he didn't want to go. And he was like, hogwash, I won't hear anything of it. You've done such a great job here. It's not an option. You're going to do the same thing there. He didn't do anything. So interestingly enough, the very things that he didn't want to implement, that these women implemented, increased things that made him as a man look good. Isn't it always like that, ladies? And then he gets a promotion that he doesn't really want because it's not in, quote, an ideal place that he really wants to go to anyway, somewhere in South America and whatever. But what can you do? Maybe y'all need to look at some of these old-fashioned movies. I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm telling you, there's a lot you can learn from it. I'm not taking anything away from the new movies like Joy, but 9 to 5 is funny, but there's some stuff you can take away from it. Go up and look it up. But what can you do to address issues that are affecting women? Childcare and education. Okay. An even bigger issue are the wages. If you're hiring women and paying them at a lower wage than men for the same job, stop it. Just please stop. Stop. That's not what we call investing in women or supporting women. You're contributing to the suppression. You're contributing to the issue. Going back to the article, I agree with Butcher. A fair and sustainable economic recovery is one that supports women's employment and unpaid care work through strong social safety nets and vibrant care infrastructures. Recovery from COVID-19 is impossible without women recovering. And it's ridiculous that women lost $800 billion in income last year. That's just mind-boggling to me. And business owners, particularly small business owners, you have a way to be able to support that where it doesn't hurt you, but it can benefit you, particularly in the long run. Talk to your tax professionals, connect with your congressman. You have the voice, exercise it, and get some stuff done and enacted so that we can all get back to some sense of normalcy and life. Until we address this issue, these inequities with women in the workforce, whether it's as business owners or employees, we're not going to totally recover. We're not. It's going to be like molasses going up a hill. Doesn't make any sense. Okay? Doesn't make any sense. Don't go against the grain in this regard. We got to find a way to make this work and fix it for the betterment of the whole. Thanks for listening to Business Basics. Go ahead and like and share this podcast and spread the word about Business Basics. I sincerely appreciate your support and your listening ear. If there are topics you'd like me to cover or if you need a business coach, email me at info@globalmentorcoach.com. Again, thanks for tuning in with me, Dr. Race, the Global Mentor Coach. Remember to spread lots of love and light. Until next time.